So with this video, we are continuing our unit for fractions, and we are going to talk about multiplying fractions today. So when we multiply fractions, we're always going to turn mixed numbers into improper fractions. So we refer to this as the magic C. And so the first step of the magic C is you're going to draw a C, or you just draw a loop around the fraction. You're going to multiply the denominator by the whole number, and then you're going to add the numerator. And we're going to always keep the same denominator. So if we were to write this out, it would be 4 times 7 plus 1. The denominator stays 4. Now if we do the operations across the top, 4 times 7 is 28, plus 1 more gives me 29 over 4. It's that simple. Denominator times the whole number plus the numerator. So let's do another practice one, and then you're going to do a few by yourself. So if we look at number 1, and if we do the magic C, and then we multiply on the bottom and we add on the top. 8 times 4 plus 2 all over 8. Now, you don't need to do this every time, but until you get good at it, I want you to practice it like this. So 8 times 4 is 32, plus 2 more gives me 34 over 8. And you don't need to simplify in this case. If you want to, you can. It's not wrong, but you don't need to. Okay, I want you to try number 2, 3, and 4. Pause the video. Okay, if we look at number 2, we multiply on the bottom, add on the top. 2 times 2 plus 1 all over 2 gave me 5 over 2. Same thing here. Multiply on the bottom, add on the top. 8 times 9 plus 3 all over 8 gave me 75 over 8. Done. Draw the magic C, multiply on the bottom, add on the top. 5 times 5 plus 2 all over 5. And when I solved that one, you should have gotten 27 over 5. All right, so how does this apply to multiplying fractions? Let's look. So the first thing you need to ask yourself, and we're looking at this example over here, is are there mixed numbers? It says, okay, then convert them to improper fractions. And that should be an N, then. So I don't need to change 2/3, but I need to change this one right there. So we're going to multiply on the bottom, add on the top. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 more gives me 21 over 5. And then I would just bring down the 2/3. Bring back my multiply sign. Now I'm going to rewrite this down here. So I'm going to say 2/3 times 21 over 5. And when you multiply fractions, you set the fractions up side to side. You're going to multiply across the top with the numerators. So 2 times 21. Well, 2 times 21 is going to be 42. And if you didn't know, you come over here, 21 times 2, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 42. Then 3 times 5 is 15. So my little rhyme that I do for multiplication and division is multiply, divide, side to side. Because you're going across the top, you're going across the bottom, and you have to set up the fractions side to side. Now, the last thing that we need to do is we need to simplify. So we're thinking back to those simplification rules or using that simplifying book that your teacher gave you. So if we look at this one, it's not both even. They don't both end in 5 or 0. They don't both end in zeros. And they're not doubles, but we could try evil 3. And remember, the rule for 3 is if you add the digits. So 2 plus 4 is 6, and that divides by 3. 5 plus 1 is 6, and that divides by 3. So I can divide all of this by 3. 42 divided by 3 is going to be 14. And 15 divided by 3 is going to be 5. Now, we this is done, you may leave it as an improper fraction. We are not going to have you turn it back into a mixed number because that's not what they ask you to do in algebra. So we are going to let you leave it improper as well. Okay, so let's look at some examples of this. So it says solve the following problems. So if we look at this one, remember multiply divide goes side to side, so we're going to multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators. 2 times 3 is 6. 8 times 8 is 64. Now, the question we have to ask ourselves is, are they in simplest form? In this case, this one is not. They are both even, so I'm going to divide by 2, and when I divide by 2, I get 3 over 32. Okay, let's look at number 2 together. So with number 2, remember we have this mixed number here. I need to do the magic C. Multiply on the bottom, add on the top. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 2 more gives me 30 over 7 times 2/3. I'm not doing anything with 2/3, so I'm just going to bring it down. Now I'm going to go across the top, across the bottom. 30 times 2 is going to be 60. 7 times 3 is 21. Are they both even? No. Do they both end in 5 or 0? No. Do they both end in zeros? No. Are they doubles? No. Are they evil? Try the evil 3. Well, 6 plus 0 is 6. 2 plus 1 is 3. So they both are divisible by 3 because 6 is divisible by 3 and so is 3. 60 divided by 3 is going to give you 20. 21 divided by 3 gives you 7, and you may leave it improper. This one is done. There are no more factors that they have in common. Now, always try because there could be more than one, but in this case, there is not. So I want you to pause the video here, and I want you to do number 3, 4, 5, and 6. Unpause the video when you are ready to check them. So if we look at number 3, we have to convert this one. Multiply on the bottom, add on the top. And this one may have been a little bit tricky after this. So 7 times 1 is 7 plus 4 more, 11 over 7. Now, see how this is a lonely whole number? In order to make whole numbers into a fraction, you need to put them over 1. And I always say 1 is the loneliest number. And 3 is a lonely number. It doesn't have a fraction to go with it, so it needs to buddy up with the 1 because 1 is the loneliest and the saddest little number. So we're going to multiply this by 3 over 1. 11 times 3 is going to be 33. Remember, you're going across the top and across the bottom. 7 times 1 is 7. In this case, there are no more common factors, so it is done. For number 4, there's no mixed numbers, so I can go across the top and across the bottom. I get 56 over 70. They are both even, so I can divide by 2. I'm left with 28 over 35, and they have no more common factors, so it is done there. This one, I have 2 mixed numbers to turn. Remember, multiply on the bottom, add on the top. Multiply on the bottom, add on the top. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 2 more gives you 8 over 3 times 10 times 4 is 40 plus 1 gives you 41 over 10 across the top, across the bottom. And I'm left with 328 over 30. Now, in this case, they are both even. They end in 8 and 0, so I can divide by 2. 328 divided by 2 should have gave you 114. 30 divided by 2 should have given you 15. Now it's not done there, because if you go back through your steps, you can divide this by evil 3, because 4 plus 1 give you 6, and that's divisible by 3. 5 plus 1 is 6, and that's divisible by 3. So if you divide this by 3, you get 38 over 5 as your final answer. And then the same thing with number 6. 9 is a lonely number, and 1 is the loneliest number. So I'm going to put this over 1. Multiply on the bottom, add on the top. So we have 9 over 1 times 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 more gives you 5 over 4. Across the top, across the bottom. 9 times 5 is 45. 4 times 1 is 4. And there's no more common factors, so 45 over 4 is your answer. All right, so real quick, let's talk about the word problems. So number 7, Tom and Jimmy ran a race. Jimmy ran 2 1/2 miles and Tom ran 2 1/4 times as far as Jimmy. How far did Tom run? I want you to try to solve that word problem by yourself. When you're ready, unpause the video. So if we look at this word problem, Jimmy ran 2 1/2 and Tom ran 2 1/4 times as far. So we're multiplying. Remember magic C's for mixed numbers. Multiply at the bottom, add at the top. Multiply at the bottom, add at the top. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 more gives me 5 over 2 times 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 more gives me 9 over 4. Across the top, across the bottom. 5 times 9 is 45. 2 times 4 is 8. And there are no common factors, so we will let you leave it improper like that. So there is your answer. Now number 8 is a tricky one, because in this one, we're doing a picture representation of multiplication. We're kind of dividing it, but thinking of it in a multiplication way. So it says this picture represents 5 pizzas, so they drew 5 pizzas, and exactly how many 1/4 are in 5? Well, the denominator is 4. Do you see how they're all broken up into fourths? The numerator is the 1, so this is the group. So I want groups of 1. So what I want you to do is you're going to circle all the groups of 1 you can find. Well, here's a group of 1, and 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 there's one, and there's one, here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and you keep going and going and going. You find them all. Oh man, there was a lot. And then you just count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So how many 1/4 are in 5? 20 groups. So there's 20 pieces that you could give to people. Okay, so that one's more of a division one, but it helps us think about our multiplication into groups.